Welcome to Egg
and Bean
Podcast. I'm Sunny.
And I'm Nathan.
And welcome to our podcast where we talk about the growing pains of life.
Then we bandage it up and transport.
Let's see if two EMTs can do that. All right, today we're going to shake things up a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
Do a little shimmy shimmy. And we're going to start off with a little short story.
Ooh.
So today's short story is about perspective.
Wow.
There once was a little boy whose family was very wealthy. One day, his father took him on a trip to the countryside, where he wanted to show his son how poor people live. So they arrived to a farm of a family that the father considered to be very poor. They spent several days there. On their return, the father asked his son if he liked the trip. "Oh, it was great, Dad," the boy replied. The father had a puzzled look on his face and asked, "Well, did you notice how poor people live?" "Yeah, I did," said the boy. The father asked his son to explain in a little bit more detail. "Well, we only have one dog, and they have four. We have a pool, but they have a whole river. A whole river. We have porch lights, but they have stars above their heads at night. We have the patio, but they have the entire horizon. We only have a small piece of land, but they have big fields where all the animals run. I wish I could run forever with all the animals. We have to buy food, but they grow it in their backyard. Did you see all the apples and oranges they have? Why don't we have that? We have a high fence to protect us, but they don't need it because their friends protect them."
Aww.
The father was stunned. Then the boy added, "Thank you, Dad, for letting me see how poor we are." This story shows that true wealth as well as happiness is not measured by material things. Love, friendship, and freedom are far more valuable.
Wow, that's such a good story.
Yeah, so I think given today's topic is happiness, I thought we would bring a bit of perspective to our conversation today. So what did you like about that story?
I just like how the kid's perspective was like super innocent and they were able to see things like, wow, we have just lights, but they have the whole stars.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the adult was just like materialistic things.
I really liked we have a fence, but their friends protect them and there's family and friends around. I think that really ties into how friendships and relationships are a huge part of our happiness. And I think oftentimes we hear people say, you know, on your deathbed, you're not going to care about how much money you have or what you did in your career. It's about the people that are there that you've created relationships with your entire life. And that really resonated with me. And again, I really like the innocence of the little kid.
Yeah.
You know?
So
saying,
humble.
I know. And that line where he said, "Thank you, Dad, for showing me how poor we are." And I think that also points to, again, perspective, right? So you can have many material things, but you could be poor in terms of the relationships you have or just the happiness you have. Yeah. So in what ways do you try to change your perspective on things?
So with me, so it's not always easy to see the positive in things, but I try to. But again, like it's with all the things going on, it's kind of hard to have like that mentality of a kid, like being innocent because you're already corrupted by everything else.
Yeah. Do you think growing up was the worst thing that's ever happened to us?
I do remember thinking when I was a kid, oh, I can't wait till I grow up. Wow, I'm so excited. Now I'm like, dang, Let's go back. Let's take it back, please.
I think that a lot of times children, because of their innocence and not being tainted by the world yet, are a lot more wise in many ways. Do you feel as if as adults we are now trying to learn to do that again, trying to learn to see things the way that we did as children? Because, you know, we often talk about, oh, we should see the positive side of things. But I think that for a lot of children, that's innate. That's natural to them.
Because they don't know any other way.
Yeah. So I think it's backwards. You know, as adults, we're trying so hard to relearn all of those things that came so naturally to us as a kid. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's very hard to see the positive side of things all the time. But I think the second that I started focusing on doing that, it made my life a lot better. There was this movie that I watched once called About Time.
I've never seen that movie.
I don't, spoiler alert, okay, if you don't like spoilers, skip this section. But at the very end of the movie, so the main character is able to travel in time. So at the very end of the movie, he travels back in time to have one last conversation with his father.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, well, how are you enjoying your life? How do I find happiness? Right? And the father said, well, what I did is, and what I think you should do is live that day once, live the entire day from morning to night, travel back in time, live it again. But the second time, notice all the small things that you missed on the first day. And so he went ahead and did that. The first day he goes to work, you know, he is rushing to be in line to get his coffee in the morning. He's getting on the subway and he's mad because the person next to him is listening to music and it's really loud on the headphones and he's bothered by it. He's a little frustrated, right? But the next day, you know, he smiles at the cashier who gives him his coffee. And instead of being frustrated about the person next to him listening to music loudly, he enjoys the music with him. And just throughout the course of the day, nothing changed. The only thing that changed was his reaction and his perspective to it. And in the movie, they show the same day twice, but just night and day difference. And I think that really resonated with me because I started trying to implement this practice in my life where at the end of each day, I would try to think or maybe write down 3 things that I liked about that day, 1 thing that I may or may not have liked, and 1 thing that I would want to work on. And over time, I think it trained my brain to look for the positives because I knew at the end of the day, I had to come up with something.
That's really good.
Right?
That's a really good way to force yourself to do that because
Yeah.
a lot of the times it's really difficult for us to see the good things inside, especially when we're going through the bad times. We can't go back in time. I wish we could.
I wish, right?
That would be a great thing to do.
Like to live every day like a couple times if we wanted to.
Yeah, you eat something really good, you could eat it again. I mean, I guess you could do that every day.
Yeah. Yeah, you could eat your favorite food every day, but I think eventually you would get tired of it. Do you think doing things too often, though, takes away the joy of something?
I think so. Because when you're a kid, you have a lot of curiosity. You're always asking questions. As an adult, you already have experience. You might think you know everything, so you tend to be less open about things, I guess. I don't know. What is your opinion on that?
I think that I'm not quite sure, you know? I'm going to pass on that one. I think that's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
But I will say as much as I'm trying to implement that, I think we oftentimes don't succeed. You know, all trying to see the positives, but sometimes something's so blatantly wrong in your face and you can't help but just feel so much anxiety about what's going on. And even if you're trying to point out the positives, you're not believing it.
That's true.
Right? Like, have you ever just sat there and tried to look at the positives of something? I mean, for example, if you get a bad grade on your exam, listen, that's a hard one. You know, I'm sitting there going, Sunny, it's okay. You got a B minus. That's an Asian F.
A B.
That's an Asian F. Your family's gonna be really disappointed in you. You might get disowned, but let's look at the positive side. And the positive side is, you know, really being able to see what part of the material you didn't understand. And you're sitting there, I'm telling myself that. I go, Sunny, it's okay. You know, this is an opportunity for you to improve. I'm not believing it. You know, I'm lying to myself. It's a bit hard sometimes.
Sunny, I would hate to see what happened if you had a C.
Oh, yeah. Let's not.
I'd be so happy if I had a B. My mom would be so happy too. Different people, I'm telling you.
But again, see perspective, right? For me, that's an Asian F. The slipper's coming out. I'm getting smacked, you know? Yeah. But for you and, you know, your mom, I guess.
I just had different standards. I wasn't the best at school.
So I think what we're pointing at is ultimately there is no good or bad. It's just what your perspective on it is.
What you define it.
Yes. And that is why we define things. I think communicating well requires you to define things properly. Because if I didn't define to you that I thought a B minus was bad,
I'll be like,
yeah, and I texted you this, so you didn't know what I'm feeling. I just go, I got a B minus.
Congratulations.
Right. I would receive a text, go, congratulations from Nate.
And you flip out like,
But again, it's all perspective. It's all context. Context is very important. What is another example you think that me and you differ on in terms of how we view it? So grades is an example, right? I guess food, you know, some people like certain types of food. Some people would die for it. Some people think
I like
gross.
all kinds of food.
I know.
Everything. So I guess that's something we're similar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like cheese.
You don't like cheese?
Yeah. But you know what's interesting about my relationship with cheese is that I want nothing more than to like it. I think a lot of people, when they don't like a food, they're diehard.
I hate it.
Yeah. They'll go to their grave going, that's really gross. But for me, no. I don't like it because my taste buds and my stomach don't agree with it. But my brain wants so badly to like it. I will watch food videos on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And if, for example, it's mac and cheese, I will look at it and go, wow, that looks so
You don't like mac and cheese?
No. Visually it looks great, but then I try it.
Physically it's great too.
No, not for me. My body rejects it. I'll gag.
Oh yeah, my body will reject it too at the end, but my taste buds love it.
But I periodically will try it. Mm-hmm. I genuinely, consistently try it over and over again to see if one day I will like it. I just don't.
Maybe that's your secret to happiness.
That's my
Once you like cheese, you'll be happy.
I will. That's my goal in life, is to eventually like cheese. It's the taste, it's the smell.
Like
it's
all kinds of cheese?
Yes. I mean, I think the only one I can tolerate are the milder ones.
Like mozzarella?
Like Parmesan. Like a little bit of it on my pasta is fine, you know? But I'm not someone who would ask for more. If it's already inside the pasta and it was made with it, I'm not going to be too picky about it. Yeah.
I'm one of those jerks that you go to Olive Garden and you use the whole block of cheese on one plate. Tell me when.
The waiter's like, tell me when. And it's just cranking. He's just cranking it for an hour.
Got a whole arm workout just from cranking cheese.
The waiter goes, do you want some pasta with your cheese? So, what does happiness mean to you, Nate?
Happiness. That's such a broad question. But if I had to answer it, I would say being how you want to be.
So that's how you're defining it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So living your life how you want to live it. So let's say you're out in public, you want to sing, you can go ahead and sing. If you want to dance, go ahead and dance.
Right.
As long as you're not affecting other people and as long as it brings you happiness. So that's what I define it.
So being unapologetically you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that.
And I feel like I am like that because the other day
are.
I went to a concert with my family,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't hung out in a while, so they kind of forget how crazy I am. And entering the building,
How could they forget?
Entering the building, I was singing from the top of my lungs, and then everybody was just looking at me, and people cheered, and my mom's like, "Wow, you just don't care."
Yeah, I mean, but people loved it. People, I think, really resonate with that. A lot of the content creators that we watch and love and, support are very much unapologetically them. And I think that is in my own life with my friends, I really want to have friends who are unapologetically them because, it reinforces a sense of community, acceptance, and not having to hide who you are. Because I think for years, I had a mask on. I was hiding behind what I thought was socially acceptable, from the way I spoke, from the way that I dressed, from what I was interested in quotation marks,
Just a follower, huh?
I was. And I think for a long time, I just didn't have a sense of who I was. So therefore, I just did what I thought was what I should be doing.
Just following the crowd.
Were you always someone who was unapologetically you?
I'd like to think I was, because I was always the guy that was just goofy, just doing funny stuff, just messing around. And over time, I think it's just gotten worse.
I think creating content has helped me a lot with that. In a lot of my videos, I'm a little bit chaotic.
Yeah.
And that's just me being me. And people enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I think in the past friends I've had weren't necessarily supportive of that. And finding my community, finding the people who loved me for who I am, finding friends like you who love me for who I am is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's definitely reinforcing. It reinforces you and reassures you that it is okay to be yourself.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
What about you, Sunny? How do you define happiness?
I'm not sure how healthy my definition of healthy is. Sorry, of happiness is.
Okay.
But I often associate my happiness with how accomplished or successful I feel. And I think that definitely explains my workaholic behavior. And, the way I feel about that day is highly correlated with how many tasks and things I got done that day.
I'm tired just listening to this.
I know it's not extremely happy. I think I have a long journey ahead of me in terms of finding out what happiness means to me. Of course, I find little things here and there that make me happy, but ultimately I get a sense of fulfillment and happiness when I accomplish tasks. And, we're working on that. I think that's something on my list for this year for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was a time that you remember being really happy?
as a kid, I struggled a lot with like mental health issues like depression, anxiety, like even like self-harm sometimes. But one of the happiest moments that I do remember was when my sister was born.
Oh.
Yeah, because I was the only child for about 9 years.
Yeah.
We have a 9-year difference. That's a huge difference. But
was she an accident?
anyways.
No, you're not. I swear.
You're a surprise.
You're a surprise. You were mommy's gift.
She was planned. We're going to say that. But anyways, my sister was born. And I was so happy because I was like, yeah, I'm not alone by myself.
I finally have a play toy.
Somebody can be my friend now.
Oh, yeah.
But that was one of the happiest times. I remember I saw my little sister outside of the nursery window, and I started crying. I started crying. I was an emotional kid. I still am very emotional, but
You are. You do hide it, but you are. Yeah.
yeah, I'm a big softie
Who
teddy
do you
bear.
think's more emotional, me or you?
100% me.
Yeah.
100%. You're ruthless. Yeah.
What do you mean? I am not. Okay, maybe a little bit sometimes.
A little bit.
Okay, no. Hold on. Before we keep going, what do you mean by that? Let's explain. Let's hear the explanation.
Sonny,
Make your case.
if somebody does something really dumb and you think it's dumb,
I'll call them out for it.
you'll call them out. You won't hide it.
Well, let's define dumb. Okay, is especially when it's a work situation or I'm trying to get something done, and I don't think the method that they are currently applying is the most effective way to be doing something, I will call them out for it. You know,
Yeah.
I think if also my friends decide to do something that I don't think is the best for their well-being, I will not be shy, because at the end of the day, I care about you, and I wouldn't feel good in my heart if I let you and watched you go do bad things.
So it's just tough love, huh?
It is tough love, and I think it ultimately is due to the way I was raised. You know, my parents were very tough love type people, and I don't care about being nice. I care about being kind. And I think there's a huge difference. Being nice is very surface level.
superficial,
Yeah,
yeah.
and superficial. I think kindness may not come off like kindness sometimes, but you know, if you have someone's best interest in mind, then I think that's what ultimately is kindness. I think a example that I use often is, you know, if someone has food in their teeth, I'm going to tell you because that's a kind thing to do. But if I wanted to be nice and protect you from being embarrassed, or I don't want to, you know, point it out because I'm nice and I'm just going to pretend I don't see it, I don't think that's very kind.
No.
You know, I want you to tell me, and I think that's a very small example, but it goes deeper than that, you know? If I was royally screwing up on something, I would expect my friends that I hope care about me to tell me that, you know? Of course, in a respectful manner. I think I try to be respectful when I call people out on things. I will admit, I have had a few times where my emotions get the best of me and I get a little frustrated because I just want to get something done, you know? When it comes to productivity and being efficient, I get a little frustrated, you know? But, you know, again, we're working on that, I swear.
We're trying our best.
I promise, guys. I'm working on it. I think I've gotten better.
That's good.
I think I've gotten better. Do you think I've gotten better?
Yeah, you've gotten a little better.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just
a little bit.
There's
but
a
you've
lot of
gotten
room
better.
for improvement. But see, that's what
But
I'm
you did your
saying.
best.
Like, I appreciate that. You know, I don't need you to coddle me. I don't need you to sugarcoat things. You know, of course, be respectful. Yeah. But I appreciate that at the end of the day. You know, we're all very sensitive, but at the end of the day, I will appreciate it.
Yeah, I would much rather you tell me I have like something stuck in my teeth and
Yeah.
rather just ignore it
Yeah.
and have other people judge me.
Yeah. Right? If you had something in your teeth and I didn't tell you before we filmed this, so we're going to just, you know, post an entire hour video of you with food in your teeth. I don't think that's very kind of me.
You remember one time you came out of the bathroom and you had a piece of toilet paper stuck to your foot?
Oh, yeah. That happened many times.
I wanted so bad to not tell you. But I told you.
Why wouldn't you tell me? I have a bone to pick with you now. Anyways, a time that I remember being happy as a child was... This sounds very depressing, but not many. I think as a kid, I didn't have many happy memories, but I think it was because you often only remember things that cause a strong emotional reaction.
Like a big impact on you.
Yeah. And I think there were probably a lot of mild happy moments, but I was just very stressed as a kid. I think this was part of my workaholic behavior. This is definitely contributing because as a kid, I was sent to a lot of after school programs, art class, writing class, whatever. And I appreciate all those things, you know. It's definitely made me a great student and I am able to do all those things and I'm grateful that my parents did all those things for me, but I didn't have a lot of playtime. So my days were very much consisting of if they're, school.
Like working on workbooks.
School workbooks, extra workbooks,
More workbooks on top of the workbooks. Huh?
I did a lot of workbooks, a lot. I remember as a kid, one time I stacked all the workbooks that I had finished.
Yeah.
Front page to back page. And it was taller than me at the time.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I
don't think I ever did a single workbook.
But I'm sure I did, Oh, you know what just came to mind?
What?
On my 8th birthday.
Uh-huh.
And 8 is my favorite number. And I was born on August 8th. So it was my 8th birthday on August 8th. I got a cake in the shape of a teddy bear.
Oh.
That just unlocked a memory. In my
Wow.
head. Yeah, it was this cute
Was
little
that a
cake.
happy memory?
It was a happy memory.
That's so happy.
Yeah, I had a little teddy bear cake and it was chocolate flavored. And I celebrated with my grandma, grandpa, my mom and dad, and my brother. And in Taiwan, my birthday is actually also Father's Day.
Oh, what?
It's different from here because in Chinese, 8 is ba, right? And father is baba, right? And so 8 is baba, right? So then it's Father's Day. Isn't that kind of cute?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Why is it weird?
I don't know. Baba.
But you know how in a lot of languages, we all have different versions of baba as dad?
In Spanish, baba means spit.
Now you're ruining my cute story.
I'm so sorry.
You're ruining the mood here. I need to take a break.
It's okay.
I'm going to take a break. We will be right back while I cry in a corner because Nate just ruined my happy memory. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, Nate, do you think that the purpose of life is happiness?
Dang. No. And let me tell you why. So although happiness is a very crucial part of life, you want to be happy, but focusing too much on happiness could have the opposite desired effect. So let's say, for example, somebody like yourself, you want to achieve highly in academics. Like you want to have good grades, you want to do all these things. But if you ultimately fail, let's say you get a B, right? A good grade. It's
devastating.
Devastated.
Yeah.
You're devastated, right? So the same thing with happiness. Your outcome is not equal to your goal.
Right.
So you might end up making your happiness goal too high where you can't even reach it. Mm-hmm. And ultimately making yourself more sad because you can't reach your goal.
If you put too much importance on something and you ultimately fail, then you'll be devastated.
Yeah.
But do you think perspective comes into that? Because I personally shoot for the moon and I'll land among the stars, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that if we merge those two, that you could still attain happiness?
So what I mean by not focusing too much is just do things that make you happy. Don't go out and look for happiness and then expect it to go well.
Right. I guess it's common to see people think that they'll achieve happiness if they have a certain amount of money. And then they hit that goal, but they're not happy. So they go, okay, I'll make more. And you're just on this cycle of, trying to make more money and ultimately not feeling satisfied or happy with it.
There is actually an article I read where they did a study where people stopped feeling happiness towards money after a certain amount. I think it was like $75,000. After that, after no matter how much more money you got, the happiness level was the same. Like there was no going up.
I love that. I think that's very important to keep in mind. Of course, you need to have a certain amount to live, to be financially stable,
To sustain yourself.
To sustain yourself, right? Because we need that.
Yeah.
But I like your point of after a certain amount, it just does not matter. Adding on to that, they did a lot of studies on third world countries, or I don't think that's politically correct anymore. Developing countries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to say third world countries anymore. It's developing countries, I believe. So I apologize for that.
Mexico for sure developing over here.
Yeah. So they did surveys on their happiness, but of course they defined it, right? So the questions were similar to how satisfied are you with your life? How happy are you? Blah, 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 right? And a lot of these people didn't have running water, very basic things that we think are very basic.
Yeah.
And people were happy. So I think it really points to your happiness is probably one of the most subjective things on this. Everything is really subjective, but I think happiness is one of the most subjective things ever.
Yeah.
Something that makes me very grateful is that my parents were really good with showing me how other people lived. And I grew up here, but I spent my entire summers in Taiwan every summer. And they would enroll me in summer school there with like the rest of the kids.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I would spend every day with them enrolled in regular school. And I remember the first time I really realized my privilege was during that time when I was in 5th grade, because these kids would come up to me because they knew I was from America. I lived in California, and they would ask me, what does your bathroom look like? What does your house look like? How many cars do you have, right? And I was taken aback by these questions because, first of all, I'm in 5th grade. I'm a kid, so I'm a little confused. But I think over time, I started realizing that. Another thing, too, is the kids are taught to respect their space, and here we have janitors in schools.
Oh, that's
right.
Okay.
Yeah, and over there's no janitors, at least the school I went to. So how it worked was every class at a specific time during the day before lunch, the entire school would be cleaning their classrooms. They'd be sweeping, cleaning the bathrooms, wiping down tables and chairs, and all sorts of stuff. And nobody complained. But I don't know. I feel like if we did that here and we tried to start implementing that here, people would be complaining.
Cruel and unusual punishment.
Right. They would be saying things like, this is child labor and all of these things. And I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong, but again, perspective, right?
I think kids should have a sense of accountability.
For respect for their space, right?
Space.
Because here, I think because we have people cleaning up after us all the time, you know, we have no respect for that.
Yeah, and you see that all the time, especially in the rigs, because we're always switching out with people, and we would keep the ambulance like really, really clean.
Yeah,
but
maybe a few days.
There'd be some days where we're like super tired, but ultimately it would be clean. But other people would use it, and there'd be like ketchup packets in there, or like spilled food, or drinks, and sticky floors, and it was so gross. Yeah,
it's the respect for space, public space, that I see, you know, between here and other countries. There's a huge difference. I find that very interesting. I think the way that we were raised ultimately shapes what we value and what we don't. I think also in certain countries, if they didn't grow up with something that we did, you know, if they ever saw that, they would be shocked. They would be very impressed. I don't know if that's the right word. But for example, the first time I ever saw one of those self-cleaning toilets, I was like, whoa, that's so
to this day,
cool.
I haven't seen
one. You know, they're really cool, right? But I mean, basic showers, basic bathrooms, all sorts of basic things look different across the globe. And I think that really shapes the way that we view it, I guess. Yeah. So given that it's very subjective, what is the science you think behind happiness?
Science, huh? What is that, Sunny? I think this is a question more for you.
All right, I'll handle it. So stated way back in the day, happiness has been defined to contain two aspects.
Okay.
So hedonia, which is pleasure.
Hedonia?
Yeah, hedonia. Hedonia.
Hedonia. That is the first time I heard that word. Okay, so that's happiness.
That's one component, right? And another component is eudaimonia. And that is a well-lived life. So how we, as an individual, assess our quality of life.
See, I'm so glad you answered this question. Where did you get that from? I've never heard that.
So that's actually from Aristotle. So since Aristotle, that's been a philosophy of how we kind of define happiness. Obviously, that has evolved throughout the years, but this is dated back since Aristotle existed, was alive. And, you know, in modern psychology these days, we have those two aspects. We still very much use those definitions or components of happiness, but we also have an added component that is the commitment and the participation that we have in life. So meaning how committed we are to certain things, and I guess participation in terms of control. How much control we have over work, for example, right? How much control we have of our own lives. Do you ever feel that sometimes when you feel out of control of your life, your happiness declines?
It's the worst.
Yeah. Or at your job, the more power and control you have, the more you tend to usually like it, because you have more autonomy as an individual to go about it. That's why I feel as if people enjoy remote jobs. They like being their own boss, for example, right? They have that autonomy versus someone telling them what they need to do. And they've actually found that programs like mindfulness that we've talked about and positive therapy has increased in the study what they defined as happiness. And I know ultimately it's subjective, but for different people, if we have varying degrees of what we think is enough control in our job, for example, we could reach similar levels of happiness among different people. So I guess my point is, say you require a lot more control in your job to feel happy. You need a little bit more, but I'm happy with just a little bit. That makes me just as happy as you, let's say, right? You see what I mean? Is that it's subjective, but ultimately we have certain things in our job that we need to ultimately feel happy. So if we're going to use our job, for example, we like our job because we're out in an ambulance. Yes, we have dispatchers. Yes, we have a boss and supervisors. But
ultimately, we're on our own. We have a lot of autonomy. That can be a good or bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. But there's that sense of control. In terms of hedonia, which is pleasure, we enjoy it. We get pleasure out of it, right? So there are people who don't love that, our job. There are people who would never want to do that. That wouldn't bring them as much happiness or pleasure as we get out of it. And then there's a well-lived life. And I think that's where the problems with EMS comes in, is we're not getting compensated enough or taken care of enough to... The work-life balance isn't the best.
Off, right? So as much as we can have pleasure in our own job and we have some sort of control over our own job, but we're missing that quality of life component. And that can start bleeding into those other categories. I may not enjoy it as much anymore because I'm not getting compensated, because I'm not, being heard in my company. My concerns aren't being acknowledged. So we're using our job as an example, but I think with our relationships, for example, too, you want to have a sense of autonomy, but you also want to have a sense of pleasure, and you want to enjoy hanging out with this person and a well-lived life. If one of those components is off, then you're probably not going to feel happy, whatever that means to you in that relationship.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's different moving components, but do you see how if one is missing or one is lacking, it can lead to other things,
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more to it than for happiness. It's crazy.
For happiness, yeah. But again, I think it's really hard to study because happiness really is so subjective. You cannot define it, Yeah, it's very hard to define what that means. I think it's easier to define different components of it, but I think ultimately the umbrella term of happiness is very hard to define. And, that's really showing in our conversation right now because we're all over the place in terms of what it means. But I think that's the point. Yeah. Is that it's just, there's no definition. There's no one definition of it.
Wow, that's crazy. I wish it was
simpler. I wonder how kids define it. I think if they like something, they like it because they're not so, I think they don't really tie into the quality of life because, well, let's hope that their parents are providing that for them. Right. And I think as a child, you're not too concerned about having much control. Of course, kids like the autonomy. The kids who always go, oh, I want to go to the bathroom by myself. Oh, mommy, can I do that? Can I sweep the floors?
Can I pour this cup of milk?
Yeah, exactly. They want to do those things. And I think as a parent, it's important to, I'm not a parent, so I don't know. But I think as a kid, I really enjoyed when I was able to do things on my own. Even as a teen, growing up to the point that you're a teen, you want to go out and do those things. You're like, Mom, why are you not? I'm 15. Let me go to the sleepover. Why can't I go?
My mom wouldn't let me go to sleepovers.
Yeah, me either. Yeah. I had to fight for those, and maybe once or twice in my whole life that happened.
Nice. She didn't even let me go to the 6th grade science camp. I was so sad.
You were denied of the science.
I was. That's why I don't know what science is.
Well, do you think happiness can coexist with negative emotions?
I think you need the negative emotions to highlight what the good things are in your life.
Yeah.
So it's going to make it stand out even more. But I have no idea how to answer that question.
I personally think so. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Because I think that, have you ever watched a movie and you feel happiness and sadness at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think movies are a good neutral example of that. I think in our normal lives, one of them usually trumps the other.
Okay.
You know, I think maybe a good example of that is if me and you were trying to get the same promotion and you got it. I'm, of course, still happy for you. But, of course, I'm going to feel some kind of sadness on my own end.
Yeah.
Right? No matter how much I am happy for you, we as human beings are very wired to take care of ourselves first. And I think that's important, you know, to know when we talk about whether like emotions can coexist. I think many emotions can always coexist, no matter whether it's happiness or sadness or anxiety and excitement, for example. You know?
This topic's very difficult for me.
It is?
Yeah.
Why?
I feel like I don't have just like the experience or knowledge.
Do you feel like you mask all your negative emotions with happiness?
100%.
Yeah. I think that's why it's hard, you know? But I think that you're not the only one who does that. I think a lot of us do that to varying degrees. And everyone knows you as a very happy person. Do you feel like that image of you is damaging and you feel pressured?
Yes, in a way, because it takes a lot of energy to be this happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does.
It does. And although it may seem easy for me,
right,
there's times where it's like so difficult and I really don't want to be happy.
Right.
And I don't feel like talking. And then people expect me to be that way. And it's tiring.
It is tiring.
It is tiring. But I feel like I need to find out what makes me happy.
Right.
Because I do feel happy, but what makes me happy?
So what makes you happy then? I know animals.
Animals make me happy.
Friends.
Nah.
Friends what? What's that?
No, yeah, friends is such a big one. My family. I think the biggest one is animals. I love animals more than anything. Yeah. More than humans.
Short people.
Short people? I don't like short people.
You don't like short people?
No, they make me happy. I like short people. I also enjoy eating. Eating,
yeah. Food is definitely something that makes me very happy, but I think it's very much a instant gratification thing, and I'm definitely trying to not get rid of all of them. You know, I think small bits of instant gratification throughout the day is very crucial to my ability to stay motivated and keep going with my tasks. But I don't think that I really want to focus that much on that. I want to do delayed gratification. I want to focus on that. I want to, you know, work on it. And there has been many conversations and discussions and even studies done on delayed gratification and how that's correlated with mental health, success, all sorts of different components. And, you know, that's why a lot of times you see a lot of emphasis on teaching kids delayed gratification. You know, that trend where they will put 2 marshmallows or a cookie or chocolate in front of a kid and they go, wait here, okay, don't eat it until mommy comes back. And then so the mom will or dad will go leave the room, but there's a camera so you can see it, and they'll see if the kid eats it or not before they come back.
I've seen that one.
Yeah.
I've seen some sneaky kids eat it.
Yeah.
They look at each other without even saying a word. They're like,
and they'll like, some of them will lick it.
Yeah,
and then just put it down. Yeah. I've seen actually sometimes having 2 kids there can either help them stay self-controlled, but sometimes it is the reason why they eat it. Do you know what I mean? Because I think some of them were siblings or twins. And, you know, if one of them started doing them, the other one would usually start eating it too. But it could also be the reverse where, you know, one of them is trying to eat it, and the other person's like, no,
like
no, no,
stops
no,
them.
stop.
Like,
Yeah. So I think social influence is huge on why we do things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think society and our social interactions affect your happiness a lot?
I think I don't really have trouble with what other people think and what society thinks about me. So I don't think that's an issue. But I could see how other people judging you for what makes you happy is very hurtful.
Yeah. I think I struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lot better now, but I think even so, I struggle sometimes with the online comments. Especially when I first started, because you're exposing yourself to a wide population of people that you would honestly never meet if it wasn't for that. And I will say I do get a overwhelmingly amount of support and love from
Too much. I have to humble you sometimes.
and I appreciate all of those comments. Those mean the most to me. But you know, especially on a bad day, when you're already having a bad day,
Yeah.
and you see a comment that just rubs you the wrong way, you know, it's really hard sometimes to just let it go. But, you know, I think that ultimately my sense of self and my confidence in myself is going to be very helpful with maintaining a level of happiness, you know? So I think that's why it's really important that we are unapologetically us and we're confident about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
This is a really random question.
Okay.
But I was going to ask, if happiness was a color, what would it be and why?
Ooh. I think happiness would be all of the colors.
All of the colors.
All of the colors. Because like you said,
yeah.
happiness, you can't define it.
What do we got? Like, who are you?
Me? I'm Nathan.
You Albert Einstein? Are you a poet?
I'm just stupid.
No, that was really good.
Yeah? I surprise myself sometimes.
That was such a good answer. It's a rainbow because it means different things to everybody. Oh.
I like it.
Yeah. I really, really like that. That should be our motto. Is happiness is a rainbow because it's different for everybody. I think that makes everyone feel included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for you?
Mine was not going to be as good. My answer was a little subpar. I was going to say yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah. Because I think, you know, a lot of light is yellow. The sun. I don't know. I associate yellow with brightness.
Okay.
And that is why the happy face is notoriously yellow.
That's true.
Yeah.
You said yellow and I thought of mustard. I'm so sorry.
I love mustard.
I hate mustard.
I can drink mustard.
You're gross.
I won't do it, but I can.
Do it.
I'll just chug. Okay. Well, if you guys support this podcast, I will do a video of me. I promise. Hand to God. I will drink mustard for you guys. I'm not gonna. How much mustard do I have to drink?
Whole bottle. What are you talking
A
about?
whole bottle. Okay, no. I take it back. Hand not to God. God, I take it back. I'm sorry. We'll see.
All right. I don't want to do it.
You don't have to do it. I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yes, do it.
But yeah. So now that we're nearing the end of our podcast episode, I was thinking that we should do our mental health check-in.
Okay.
So how are you feeling this week, Nate?
I like to say I am constant. I am a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's been staying pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah. Something that I have been working on is adding meaning to life.
Right.
Or to all the situations. So if something bad happens to me, like I'm going through a rough patch, I have to just reevaluate the situation and see the good sides about it.
Right. So perspective.
What we've been talking about this whole episode.
Look at that.
So I am excited. I feel like it's going to help my mental health, be more positive, and just look at things in life make me happy. What about for you?
I would say this past week it was about a 7, but today it was a good 9 out of 10.
Oh.
I went on a hike this morning, and I haven't done that in a while, and I got to do it with one of my best friends here at UCLA.
You said best friend?
I'm sorry, Nate, but you got competition. Better step your game up because you pissed me off earlier before our break. I'm kidding.
I'm not happy.
I'm not happy anymore. I'm a 2 out of 10.
2.
But because I'm glad I did that today, because last week I talked about how I wanted to implement walking because you did it, and you've been doing that, and it's been really helping you. But I think on top of that, this coming week, I really want to incorporate more stretching.
Ooh, stretching.
So stretching has, again, been previously associated with decreasing anxiety and stress, especially before bed. And I've been having a hard time with sleeping properly. I try to decrease my sugar intake, but the time of the month is coming next week, and that's really hard to do.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so I've been eating. I did not cut my sugar intake, so I'm gonna try stretching. I'm gonna wait till after my period to cut the sugar intake. And I know I said I was gonna do that last week, but
that's fair.
A girl's got to eat the chocolate, okay? I'm sorry. If you want sane Sunny to be here and play, to be present, I need chocolate, okay? So
I love chocolate. You want to know something funny, though? I've also been stretching.
Really?
Yeah, but you don't want to know why?
Why? Oh, no. Why have you been stretching?
Because I want to be able to Asian squat like you. I've been stretching my calves out to go push further so that I can do that
Asian
sitting squat.
Stay tuned, guys, because in a couple weeks. In a couple weeks.
Give me at least a month or two.
Okay, in a month, we're going to be able to see Nate Asian squat. And on that note, that is the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening to Egg and Bean podcast. We love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Bye.